Hi, my name is Marie Andrews from Capita Yoga, and today I'd like to guide you through a nice, juicy, delicious half an hour yin session. So we'll begin with a blanket. If you have a blanket or a towel, roll it up into a nice tight little roll. I'm going to place it underneath the shoulder blades lying down. The intensity of the pose will depend on the height of the blanket. So if you want less, you roll it up about halfway. If you want more, then a slightly thicker roll. And then just lying down, I'm going to set the timer for about a 2-minute hold. Most of the poses we'll be doing today will be 2 minutes long. And you place the blanket underneath the shoulder blades. It could be a little bit above or below, depending on what feels most comfortable for you. And then the arms are out to the sides at shoulder height. And with the legs, you can have it cross-legged, Baddha-Konasana, bound angle pose, butterfly, or just legs flat on the floor, depending on what feels comfortable for you. Have a little shuffle around, a little wriggle around to get the right positioning, the right spot. And then you can just close the eyes. And just let the body rest back into the support of the blanket beneath. So there's no muscular activation to hold the body in place. You're fully supported, just resting back, allowing the tissues just to soften and yield to this new shape. Letting the head rest back. Letting even the palms of the hands relax, a slight curl in the fingertips. And then just tune into the natural flow of the breath. Nice, smooth, even inhales and exhales. Just dropping into that state of relaxation, disassociating from whatever's happened previous. So whatever activities you're doing prior to the mat, coming into your practice, just put them all to one side and allow yourself the attention your practice deserves. Okay, now just very slowly when you're ready, change the positioning of the legs so you can bend both knees, place the feet on the floor, and then roll over onto one side and use the hands to come upright. And just put the blanket to one side. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. And we're going to come into a lunge. Right foot forward, left leg behind, and you can bring both hands on the inside of the front foot. You can lean into the arms, or you can have some support nearby, maybe blocks or books. You can build a little tower to lean into. Once the wrists or the arms get tired from supporting the upper body weight, you could then use the forearms on the blocks or books to lean into. And you want the front foot just slightly off to the right, about 45 degrees, and the toes turning in the same direction as the knee. And then allow the hips to sink down towards the floor. It takes about 30 seconds to really settle into the pose, so make any little micro adjustments you need to sort of find that ideal positioning of the body that works best for you. And often less is more in yin, so you're not going to your full edge straight away. About 70% is a good rule of thumb, 70% of your full capacity. And now you should be about halfway into the stretch, the hold. And so you should be starting to settle in a little bit more into the pose and into the breath, and just finding a natural rhythm, just dropping into that yin zone, that mindfulness of breath and body. And if you start to open up this last 30 seconds, Then maybe you want to come down a little bit lower, you can have forearms to floor. But rather than starting too strong or too deep into the pose, try starting a little bit less, and then gradually as time goes, then you go deeper, rather than too deep to start with. And there's some nice internal little shifts going on there. Now start to re-support yourself coming up using the hands. You tuck the toes under on the back leg, and then just step back to downward facing dog. And that may take you a little bit to get into your down dog. There's no rush. And just take a nice easy down dog. Quite passive, not too active. And then right foot steps through. Right knee just beneath the right armpit, somewhere around there, and right heel somewhere towards the left groin. You can have the shin parallel or further forward if you like. If that feels okay on the front knee, you flex the foot a little bit to protect the knee, stabilise it. Otherwise, I prefer keeping the knee joint closed, it feels safer. And then exhale, coming forward onto the forearms. Maybe forehead to hands. And then again, we'll go for the 2-minute hold. Now, depending on your experience with Yin, 2 minutes may be a really, really long time, or it may be a very short time. It's all relative to your own experience. So if you've never done Yin before, if you've only ever held a posture for 3 to 5 breaths, then 2 minutes will seem like a really long time. But if you're an experienced practitioner of Yin, then 2 minutes will seem quite short. Sometimes we hold them 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes long. And just see if you can drop into a state of relaxation in the pose as best you can. We're still on the right side. We've still got the right leg forward. We'll even up and do the left side in a moment. You can let the belly relax. Maybe you're starting to feel a nice stretch down that outer right hip. Soften the shoulders, the face muscles. So we worked front of hip in the lunge, targeting the hip flexors in particular. Now we're working the side of hip, outer hip area, the glutes. And just take about 3 more breaths here. If it feels okay, you can even stay upright or keep folding forward. One more deep breath. And then just slowly switching sides. So we'll pass through down dog as a counter pose. We'll step the right foot back to meet the left. Take your time going in and out of the poses. I've been there a little while. Now you'll feel the difference. You'll notice the difference here in the symmetrical pose between the right and the left sides. With the right hip, left hip. And that flushing through fresh nutrients and vitality and energy and circulation in that right leg. And let all that sensation pass. You're just noticing it. It's called the rebound effect after the pose. And then we just switch sides. Left foot steps forward. Both hands on the inside of the front foot. And we'll get these more active poses out of the way first, and then we'll start to sort of, this is as active as we're going to get for the whole class, and then we'll start to wind down, lying down on the floor more. Now again, whatever you chose on the first side, do the same on the second. You can turn the left toes off to the side, making sure they're facing the same direction as the left knee, and then drop the hips, open into that right front hip. You can lean into your support stay on the palms of the hands. And any placement of the head that feels comfortable for you. You might want to look down. You could continue to look up or slightly forward. This particular pose has a tendency to be a bit fiery, a bit spicy. Builds heat pretty quick into the hips. So if you need to take a couple of deep breaths just to take the edge off, then I recommend it. And just notice those subtle changes. Yin yoga is really the practice of refining your attention or your sensitivity, sharpening and refining the mind, and being more aware of what's happening in the body. Okay, inhale slowly, come up, place your support to one side, step the left foot back into your down dog. Have a lovely big stretch, press down through the palms, lengthen through the spine, stretch it out, open it up. And then exhale, left knee towards the left armpit, bend the knee, stretch the right leg behind nice and long. Now, changing the placement of the leg is going to change the intensity. Maybe slightly stronger with the leg shin further forward towards the top end of the mat. You can keep that heel in nice and close to the groin if you like, if you feel it offers more protection to the knee. And then fold on in, exhaling. And I'd also like to encourage you to experiment and explore. So if the torso leans slightly to the right, you might get a deeper stretch. Slightly to the left, you might get less. There's different muscle fibre orientations in the hips and different layers of support. So the muscles run in different directions. So just by changing the positioning of the body or the angle can be really helpful, really useful. So just even a millimetre or a centimetre or an inch in either direction can change the stretch significantly. And keep softening the groin, folding in. We'll try to cover a variety of ranges of movement in the spine, so forward fold, back bend, twist, side bends, and also touching on different areas of the hips. So just a nice 3 breaths here. And then slowly when you're ready, coming upright, placing the hands on the floor and just stepping back to down dog. You can pedal out the feet, walk out the heels, or just plant both feet flat. Whatever feels good for you, but just notice the echo of sensation around that left hip. And then slowly coming down to the knees. Okay, we'll come back to our blanket now. So we'll place it underneath the heels for a little bit of support into a squat. This Malasana yoga squat's one of my favourites. And even if you're used to squatting with the feet flat on the floor, you might like a little bit of support today. You might want to place the blanket under the heels, a little bit of a lift, because we're here for the full 2 minutes. So find a position that you can maintain for that length of time, the body position. where you won't have to move or struggle or change your position. And you can have any position with the arms from your fingertips to the floor, hands in prayer. You want to broaden and open the space around the lumbar spine. So instead of rounding, sort of hunching forward, you can open up, lift the chest for a little bit, lean the weight back into the heels. So the spine's nice and tall. And decompressing, sense of traction, length and opening in that lower back area. And you're halfway already, so just one more minute remaining. I try to do this pose every day for a short period of time. The benefits on the lower back are just huge. If you've got tight lower back area from long periods of sitting, it's really, really beneficial to do. If you do a lot of gardening or a lot of forward folding, picking up things on the floor, just a general stiff or tight lower back, the benefits are huge. And you don't have to spend that long. They're 2 minutes. Isn't that big a chunk of the day? Even a little movement, just side to side, gently massaging that head of the femur bone into the hip socket. That ball and socket joint in the hip feels really nourishing and nurturing for the hips. It doesn't have to be a large movement. Nice. Okay, slowly coming down, pop your blanket to one side. And you come all the way to the floor, so lying on the belly. Now you may choose to use your blanket in Sphinx pose. You may choose to pop it underneath the belly button, directly under the belly button for support, especially if the lower back's feeling tight or uncomfortable. And then the shoulders are under the elbows and the forearms are out in front. And we'll do a variation here. Just notice how that sits for the body, how it feels to begin with. If that's enough to work with, just here, if you're getting enough sensation, then stay here. If you want a little bit more, nice little variation, you can bring the left leg out to the left. And the leg can be straight or it can be bent. So if it feels like that's too strong, too powerful on that lower back area, the SI joints, then you can bring the leg back into Sphinx. Or the leg out to the side. And there'll be a sense of compression in the lower back, but we need to distinguish between sensation and pain. So if it's painful or anything uncomfortable, then change your position. And just a nice 3 breaths here. You can let the head hang forward, or you can continue to look up. And even I like to, my personal favourite is just using a block underneath the forehead. So I have something to rest the forehead on. Very soothing, very calming for the nervous system. Now if you have the leg off to the side, start to gently draw it back to meet the right leg. Lying down in between sides, so just lower yourself to the floor. The blanket can remain underneath. And then just feel the subtlety, so the subtle difference between the left and the right side pelvis. It may not have been that noticeable when you were in the pose, but I feel a sense of freedom in the left side of the pelvis more than the right now. It's just subtle, it's nothing huge. But just see if you can notice it for yourself. Now we'll come up once more, we'll try the other side. So right leg off to the right. Now if you have a wall beside, you can press the foot into the wall and use the wall to support the leg in place. So there's as little muscular activation as possible. You can scan the body from head to toes, make sure everything's relaxed. You have the blanket under the belly for support or without, depending how you're feeling. It's becoming more of my favourite, this having the blanket under the belly in Sphinx and even in Cobra. It feels very supportive for the lower back. Now if you're feeling like that's too much, just bend the knee or even just stay with legs together. And the height also will change the intensity. So if you feel like you need more, then just wriggle the foot higher up towards eye level. And with the two sides, we've been in Sphinx pose for a total of 4 minutes, which is a decent amount of time for a back bend. It's a good length of time. You've got 3 more breaths there. And then very slowly return the leg to the centre, lowering all the way down onto the floor. Now you will need to move your blanket out for this one, if it's in place. And we'll bring that left arm out to the side at shoulder height. That feels better in the pelvis, a little bit more even there. And then roll over onto, you can walk the fingertips away from you, roll over onto the left side body. Now the right hand is just slightly in front of the face for support. The right knee can bend, right sole of the foot on the floor. Or just keep both legs straight or both legs bent. So any position of the legs that suits, that works for you. And likewise with the arm positioning, if there's any jamming or discomfort in the wrist or the elbow when you roll over to one side, then have the palm face up. You're really not getting much out of the stretch at all, and you can intensify it by having the arm at cactus arms 90 degrees and then roll over. And you're in there already for a minute. And I really like to lean my hips back down towards the floor, almost like I'm trying to come into a twist. And my upper body's anchored to the floor, but I have this freedom where I can lean the hips back as if I'm trying to lie down on my back. Three more breaths here. And then inhaling, coming back to centre, rolling over onto the belly, just pausing there. You can have the arms wide or arms close. And we're just touching on that, on the upper body, opening, nice little chest open, this one. And now we'll try the other side. So right arm out to the side at shoulder height. Palm can face down or up. Elbow can bend at 90 degrees. Left hand in front of the left chest for support. And then we're going to lean over onto the right side. Now the head can rest on the floor, side of the face on the floor. You have a block or a pillow. You can even rest the head on the pillow as you open up into it. You'll feel a very distinctive stretch in that right front chest, front shoulder. change positioning of the legs as needed, and change the positioning of the arms as needed as well. You're halfway already. And just go easy on this one, don't try and go full throttle. Resist that temptation to sort of amp it up and take it to the max. The shoulder joint's a very vulnerable joint. It's really built for mobility, less stability, which is the opposite of the hips, which is more for stability, for carrying the body weight. But the shoulders are more for range of movement. Maybe even just close the eyes with this one. Quite a nice one to drift into. 3 more breaths there. Maybe lean the hips back just a touch more of this last breath. And then slowly roll all the way over onto the belly. Pause there. Allow the body to relax, to process, to absorb the internal changes that have occurred over that 2-minute hold. Okay. Now we're just going to come back to child pose. So hands either side of the chest, just press back, buttocks to heels. Draw the knees nice and wide, and then sink the chest down towards the floor. I like to be a little bit active to start with, so stretching and reaching the arms forward, feeling a nice lengthening through the side body. Now start to relax a little bit and be a little bit more passive. I'm going to use child pose as a side body opener, so we'll walk both hands off to the left, maybe off the edge of your mat. Could be just a little, that's absolutely fine, it could be a lot. But try not to distort the pose, so try not to twist from the hips or the shoulders. Try and keep the shoulders level, hip points level, and then just soften in. Three more breaths. Keep softening the inner groin, letting the chest sink down towards the floor. One more breath. And then walk the hands back to center on the inhale. Pause at center. Exhale, soften in. Noticing the differences between right and left sides. And then we'll just try the other side. So I'm going to walk both hands off to the right. Find length as well as depth. So we're not compressing too much on the right side. Try and grow both sides of the body long. So you want to reach away from you as well as off to the right. Anchor down through both hips. Try not to let the hips lift. Got that anchoring quality of the pelvis and then that opening, expressing out and lengthening of the upper body. It's quite okay to make subtle changes. If you feel like you're not getting much of a stretch anymore, then just draw the knees wider or walk the hands off further. Or if it starts to intensify too much, just draw the knees closer And the side body, there's not a lot of range of movement there, it's mostly for stabilising. You don't have to go far to feel much. Last 3 breaths. Notice it's the exhalation that you soften, go deeper. And then the inhale, come back, return to centre. Now a good 4-minute hold both sides in child pose, the 2 combined. And then slowly coming upright, draw the knees together and come over onto a seat. Sit on the buttocks, legs out in front. Again, your blanket might come in handy here. A little bit of a lift, a little bit of support underneath the buttocks, and just wedge it in underneath. Legs out in front, spine nice and tall. Take a deep inhale here. And then exhale, just start to fold forwards. You want to drape the torso forward along the thighs. And if you've got a block handy, you might like to use it for a little bit of support underneath the forehead. Or you could put it under the elbows, resting the head in the hands. Let the legs relax so the feet aren't active. You don't need to press down through the heels or the legs. And just drape and fold the body forward. And you may not have to go very far if you're a stretch. You may be quite upright in this pose, and that's absolutely fine. If you find yourself leaning back too much, then you need more support under the buttocks. So take as much support you can go. Double the blanket, triple the blanket, have a couple of pillows under. You're really sitting up high to help tilt the pelvis forward and enable you to do a gentle forward fold. Even if the hands have to be beside the body or even behind the support. And eventually those hamstrings will start to respond and open up. It takes a little bit. We need to be patient. Yin is the practice of patience. It takes time for the body to respond, for the tissues to open. And already you'll be noticing a difference from when you started. Now towards the end of the hold, even if it's just a little bit more comfort in your own skin. So visually, nothing may have changed much, but internally you're just feeling a little more at ease in the pose. And if I was to turn around and say, we're holding it for another 10 minutes, we're not, by the way, but if I was to say we're going to hold it for 10 or 20 minutes, it wouldn't really be a big deal to you. So that's sort of the level of relaxation and ease you want to achieve in every pose. Where you can just spend X amount of time in the pose, whatever length, and it wouldn't matter. And then inhaling, slowly coming up. Okay, one last one on our back. We'll do a twist to finish with. Pop everything to one side. Sit up nice and tall first. Make sure, give the spine a chance to return to neutral. And then when you're ready, maybe you need longer transitioning from pose to pose. We're sort of unaware of time, so we're just going to come down, leaning down onto our forearms, and then eventually all the way onto our back. Hug both knees into the chest. Have a gentle rock from side to side. Any movement there that feels good. And then just a nice supine twist to finish with. So 2-minute hold, both knees relaxed to the left. I'll set the timer, I can keep track. And then just scan, soften the groin, soften the buttocks, the glutes, the abdomen. You can have the left hand on the knees. The weight of the hands helping to deepen the twist slightly, but there's no aggressive pushing the knees down into the floor. You're working with gravity and you're working with the body weight. Now if that doesn't feel like much, if you're in it here, we've been here for 30 seconds. It's a good time to reassess. If you want a deeper one, you can cross the right leg over the left into a twist, twisted roots. Now the head can be neutral, can be looking to the right, you can look to the left even. So don't get fixated on a certain positioning of a body part. I have to look over the right shoulder. No, you don't. That creates discomfort in the neck. Much, much better to look over the left shoulder. So find a positioning of the head that feels comfortable, feels good for you. And the knees may not even be to the floor, they may be slightly lifted. You could even just snuggle a blanket under the knees or some props, some support. Your pose is your pose. It's going to look different from person to person. It's not going to look the same as me or someone else. And then uncross the legs, come back up and use the belly, engage the belly to draw you back to center. And then exhale, relax both knees to the right. I like to take this version of a simple twist just to assess, see where I'm at. If I'm not feeling much sensation, rather than always taking the strongest option first, then I'll cross that left leg over the top of the right, about 30 seconds into it, and notice if that feels more suitable. And it's always nice, rather than just to assume you need props, is to go into a pose without them and then change it based on what you find, or vice versa as well. So you go into the pose without them and you suss it out and you take them if needed. Okay, last 3 breaths there. This is a nice one just to close your eyes with. Winding down, unwinding, relaxing, letting go. I wish we had longer. My ideal amount of time would be 5 minutes minimum. That's a pretty good overall body yin practice. You can come back to again and again. Now uncross the legs, inhale, come back to center, hug the knees in, rock from side to side. And then maybe if you have time, come into Shavasana or relaxation. And you can take up as much room or as little room as you like. And I recommend a good 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you can manage. Just to let all that work settle, to let the body process and simulate any internal changes that have occurred over the period of time. It's a very subtle but powerful practice, and we should never underestimate its value. Just by spending time in Shavasana, you can feel the benefits of the work. But for purposes of time, I'm just going to hug the knees in, roll to one side, and just slowly come up and say goodbye. Happy New Year, and have a beautiful practice. Keep on practicing.